do this sort of thing. The female guards the laid eggs in a hole for several weeks, clasping them with her feet. At this point, it releases special substances that inhibit the development of mold. Finally, white and soft larvae emerge. A real clump of disgusting feet and antennae. After shedding skin several times, young centipedes darken and start crawling around. Ugh. Kangaroo. Many people know that the kangaroo is a marsupial from the family Macropodidae. There are about 69 species of kangaroos in the world. They live in Australia, New Guinea, and the nearby islands. Also, everyone knows that kangaroo females have a special pouch where they carry their cubs. But not everyone knows that a kangaroo has a very short pregnancy term. A baby is born about a month after conception. However, this is not a grown animal ready for life in the outside world. The size of a newborn kangaroo is only a couple of centimeters, and it weighs about a gram. In this embryonic state, the cub makes its way into the pouch, and the tiny kangaroo does not yet have hind legs, so he has to use the front ones. Moreover, the mother does not help him. She only licks the path to the pouch, where the cub immediately starts sucking on a nipple. Well, he doesn't actually suck it, because he's not yet able to. He's too small. Milk is secreted into his mouth with the help of a special muscle. Another peculiar thing about the kangaroo is that it has 4 nipples in its pouch, and each of them secretes a different type of milk. So kangaroos have 4 types of milk depending on the age of the cub. Sometimes a female has 2 cubs of different age at once, and both are still in the pouch. In this case, 2 kinds of milk are secreted. In about 190 days, the cub becomes large and strong enough to climb out of the pouch. At first, he only sticks his head out, and this can continue for several weeks until the cub feels safe enough to get out. He then starts spending more and more time in the outside world, and eventually, in about 235 days, he leaves the pouch for the last time. Seahorses. Perhaps seahorses are one of the most unusual fish. Actually, they do not look like fish, rather like some kind of alien creature. Where else would you see something like that? But the most peculiar thing about them is their breeding, because it's the males who carry eggs. This happens after a long and thorough courtship, in course of which seahorses go through several phases. In the end, when all mating dances are over, the female passes the eggs to the male. He has a special pouch on his belly, where he lays eggs and fertilizes them. The inner surface of the pouch thickens, which helps protect the offspring. During pregnancy, the male seahorse lives on a certain area about 1 square meter in size and does not travel beyond its borders. The offspring remains in the pouch for 2 to 4 weeks, and then newborn seahorses are released into the water. The number of baby seahorses released by the male seahorse is on average 100 to 1,000 for most species.
Oh my God!
And this is not surprising, because the cubs are tiny, they can easily be eaten by a predator or washed away by ocean currents. Therefore, in order to survive, seahorses deliver many babies. Less than 0.5% of them survive to adulthood. However, like almost all other types of fish, seahorses do not care about their cubs after birth, so the offspring have to fight for life on their own. Sea urchins. Although all sea urchins look exactly the same, they belong to dioecious organisms, meaning that it has distinct male and female individual organisms. Sea urchins are quite fertile. For example, a female sea urchin produces about 20 million eggs during one breeding season. Imagine if your dog had this many puppies.
God, they're adorable!
Sea urchins can breed all year round, but most often, they do it before the warm season. They release something like a cloud that contains future offspring, male and female eggs. Of course, other marine creatures immediately try to eat them, but still, many eggs survive and find each other in the ocean. In a few hours, they turn into microscopic balls covered with tiny hair, which moves the balls in all directions. Soon they change, stretch, produce a thin calcareous skeleton, and form something like a tiny lunar lander. It can drift for months, feeding on algae along the way, and all this time a microscopic sea urchin will grow inside. In the end, it grows up enough to land in a suitable place, attach itself, and start a real adult life. Slugs. Fans of Ronald Weasley, please get away from the screen. Now we'll talk about slugs.
Okay. Better out than in.
Slugs have both female and male reproductive organs. That is, they are hermaphrodites. Usually, the slug follows the mucus of another slug and can even eat that mucus. Then the slugs find each other and begin to circle together. And a few days after fertilization, the slug lays about 30 translucent eggs in a hole in the ground or another similar place. For example, between the stone walls or under a fallen log. The development of offspring inside the eggs takes from 3 to 5 weeks, depending on the species. In the end, completely formed tiny slugs hatch from the eggs, and perhaps, looking at them, even people who are disgusted by slugs can be touched because they are so small and cute. Nevertheless, slugs grow very quickly and are ready to reproduce in 2 months. Bees. All the bees in the hive, workers, drones, and the queen bee, emerge from eggs laid by the queen bee. There's only one queen bee for the whole family, and her death often means the death of the entire hive. The queen bee mates once in a lifetime. Its main task is to lay eggs. The rest of the work is done by working bees in the hive. One can say that all the bees in the hive are sisters and brothers on the maternal side, but at the same time, they can have different fathers. The fact is that the queen bee usually mates with several tens of drones and uses the genetic material of them all at once. Despite the difference in breeding, the birth process is the same for all bee species. Each bee goes through 3 stages: egg, larva, and pupa. The queen bee glues an egg to the bottom of a special comb. In 3 days, the bees put some milk in the comb to feed the larva. Aside from its main purpose, milk weakens the eggshell, and a larva emerges from it. The larva grows very quickly. In 3 days, its body mass increases by 250 times. Then the bees seal the combs with wax, and the next stage begins, turning into a chrysalis. The bee larva remains in a sealed form for 12 days, and then it crawls outside as an adult insect. Cichlids. African cichlids are fish from the family Cichlidae that live in the Great African Lakes. They have many different features, but cichlids are especially interesting as they carry their eggs in their mouths. And it is much more convenient than it seems at first glance. On the one hand, of course, it cannot put many eggs in its mouth. On the other hand, when the offspring of the fish is in its mouth, it's much easier to save it from predators. In any dangerous situation, cichlids can simply swim away from danger. By the way, sometimes they hold in their mouths not only eggs, but also young offspring. This way, cichlids can breed fewer children with a higher chance of survival. One should say that this method of bearing offspring is a characteristic of several species of fish and amphibians, but for some reason, cichlids are the ones who are most often mentioned in this regard.
I'll pick you up after school.
That's all for today. See you soon!